Welcome. Tonight, we drift through time to a world of still gardens and silent swords. A world wrapped in silk and snow, where whispers held weight, and even the placement of a teacup could mark the line between honor and shame. This is feudal Japan, not the one of high drama and grand battles, but the one of ordinary days and endless obligations. In this journey, we will quietly unfold the lives behind the lacquered masks. Not the warriors who wrote history with steel, but those who lived beneath their shadows. We all begin with the life of a samurai, a servant, one who rose before the sun, bowed with practiced stillness, and endured each day in quiet, grinding repetition. Then, we all step into the echoing story of a tragic genius, Oda Nobunaga, a man whose ambition reshaped a nation, yet whose end came not with triumph, but in fire and silence. Afterward, we'll explore a more arcane path, hidden beneath layers of myth, the mysterious world of the Onmiji, masters of spiritual balance and forgotten power. And finally, we'll slip into the serene but secretive life of a geisha, moving through the refined world of Kyoto's pleasure districts, where art and discipline blurred into something almost sacred. So, make yourself comfortable, set aside the noise of your day, and let us begin our descent gently into the long-ago rhythms of a quiet and exacting world. Imagine this. The sun has not yet risen. The air is damp, cool, and silent, save for the soft rustle of your own bare feet moving over tatami mats. You are already awake. You are never truly asleep. As the servant of a mid-ranking samurai, your duties begin not with a spoken command, but with expectation. Your first task? Open the shutters. Fold his sleeping robes, precisely, with sharp, invisible lines, and prepare the tea, heating the water just below a boil, lest it insult his senses. You will not speak unless spoken to. You will bow subtly, a nod, not a gesture, just enough to be noticed, but never enough to be theatrical. Your master is already practicing his kata, the elegant, deliberate sword forms passed down for generations. He does not need praise. He does not seek correction. You watch only to anticipate what he will need next. If you fail to notice that his scabbard is dusty, if you forget to oil the blade with choji oil before it rusts, if you lay his armor out with the cords twisted or the shoulder guards uneven, you will not be corrected. You will be dismissed, or worse, you may be punished quietly, a cut to your wages, a whisper to your family, or in more serious cases, a strike with the bakken across your back. There is no room for dreams in your life. You are expected to move like smoke, to be present, but invisible, a shadow serving a blade. Life is not defined by hours. There is no set end to the day. After the morning drills, you clean the dojo, sweeping sand from the training grounds, folding sweat-soaked robes, sharpening practice weapons. Meals are served at exact times, and you will taste none of them until hours later, if at all. When guests arrive, perhaps another samurai or a court official, you are expected to kneel in the corner, perfectly still, holding a tray, pouring sake when needed, but only if the glass is empty and you are signaled. If you act too early, it's presumptuous. If you act too late, it's disrespectful. You must read silence like it is written in fire. And then there are the moments between, times when your master prepares to ride out, perhaps for border skirmishes, patrol, or simply a display of strength at court. On those days, your responsibilities multiply. You must polish the armor, prepare the saddle, fill his pack rice, flint, dried fish, carefully oiled documents, and still have time to kneel and help him bind his hair. And if war breaks out, real war, you may be called to march with him, not to fight, to carry supplies, to boil water, to care for his horse, to die, if necessary. You will have no title, no name in any record, only the knowledge that you were there, as invisible as breath on a mirror. There are humiliations too, not dramatic, no yelling, no beatings, but quiet degradations. A wrong answer met with stony silence. A plate you must wash again and again until the porcelain shines like pearl. A letter you were not permitted to read, but must memorize the delivery route for. You are not educated, but you must copy characters. You are not noble, but you must speak in the clipped, formal language of the upper class. You are not a warrior, but you must understand their etiquette as if your life depends on it, because sometimes it does. At night, when your master retires, you fold his bedding, you bow again, you extinguish the lamps, and you sit, just outside the paper door, listening, waiting, in case he calls for water, or for words, or for no reason at all. Even in rest, you are not at rest. No one will remember your name. You will die as you lived, folded into the lives of others. But in that life was a rhythm, an order, a form. You were the unseen edge of the sword, the breath before the strike, a presence shaped not by power, but by perfect control. And now, as we step quietly away from your mat, let us move toward a very different kind of life. Still bound by steel, still shaped by ceremony, but lived at the top, not the bottom. Let us meet Oda Nobunaga. Imagine a world of fractured clans, endless war, and shifting allegiances. A world where power was earned not through birthright, but through ambition sharp enough to cut through centuries of tradition. In that world, one man stood out, not because he was noble, not because he was just, but because he was relentless. Oda Nobunaga, you may know the name, but tonight, we walk quietly through his life, not in the footsteps of a conqueror, but in the cracks of a man who was never meant to die peacefully. Nobunaga was born in 1534 in Owari province. He was the son of a minor daimyō, powerful, but not preeminent. From the beginning, he was strange. He refused court dress. He played with peasants. He ate without manners. People called him the fool of Owari, but he was watching, always. While his brothers played politics, he studied foreign maps. While other warlords worshipped tradition, Nobunaga asked how many arquebuses it would take to kill a samurai from 50 paces. When his father died, many assumed he would lose his title. Instead, he crushed his relatives quietly, strategically, and began his rise. To understand Nobunaga, you must understand the world he lived in. Japan was shattered. Dozens of daimyō ruled their own regions like kings. Alliances shifted weekly. Monasteries held armies. Pirates controlled ports. Honor was a currency, but so was betrayal. Nobunaga saw the chaos and saw opportunity. He built roads, standardized weapons, introduced uniforms. He rewarded talent, not bloodline. He formed unlikely alliances with merchants, Jesuit priests, foreign traders. He allowed Christianity to spread not because he believed, but because it weakened the Buddhist monasteries that defied him. And when those monasteries rebelled, Nobunaga did not negotiate. It is perhaps his most infamous act, Mount Hiei, a sacred Buddhist complex, one of the most holy sites in all of Japan. It housed monks, warriors, families. It was also sheltering his enemies. In 1571, Nobunaga surrounded it and burned it. Thousands died, many of them civilians. The flames lit the sky for days. The smoke was said to be visible from Kyoto. Why? Because to Nobunaga, order mattered more than mercy. And yet, when he walked through the ashes, he said nothing. He did not gloat. He did not pray. He simply moved on. Nobunaga embraced the new. Matchlocks from Portuguese ships, drills taught to peasants, castles designed for cannon, not arrows. At the Battle of Nagashino in 1575, he used rotating volleys of gunfire to annihilate a superior cavalry force, rewriting the rules of samurai warfare. He had no patience for pageantry. He rejected the art of the old court, but he appreciated spectacle. He built extravagant palaces. He dressed in tiger pelts. He painted skulls gold. To some, he was a tyrant. To others, a visionary. To most, he was terrifying. And then when he was so close to unifying Japan, it ended. In 1582, he was staying at a small temple in Kyoto, lightly guarded. He was preparing to join his general, Hideyoshi, in a campaign. One of his own allies, Akechi Mitsuhide, betrayed him. In the early hours of the morning, Mitsuhide's troops surrounded the temple. Nobunaga's guards were overwhelmed. Trapped, wounded, and cornered, he chose to end his life by seppuku, setting the temple ablaze around him. His body was never recovered. Only the scorched ruins remained. Mitsuhide ruled for less than 2 weeks. He was hunted down and killed by Hideyoshi, Nobunaga's loyal general. And though Japan would eventually be unified, it would be by others. Tokugawa, Hideyoshi, men who stood on Nobunaga's ashes. Nobunaga left no poems, no final words, only the stillness of what might have been. He was not a kind man. He was not a peaceful man. But he was a mirror, showing Japan what it could become if it dared. And now, we leave the firelight of war and step into something quieter, older, and stranger. Let us descend into the mystery of the Onmiji, the shadow priests of the court. Not all power is visible. Some lies in whispers, in patterns, in stars. Some is carved in salt. folded in paper, or bound in threads of silk that stretch between the living and the dead. In the heart of ancient Kyoto, there once walked men who could read the sky like a scroll, and shape fate with ink and breath. They were the Onmiji masters of divination, exorcism, calendar making, and unseen influence. They were not priests. They were not monks. They were something in between, or perhaps something beyond. Tonight, we walk with them. Onmiji, the way of yin and yang, arrived in Japan from China during the 6th century. It brought with it the cosmological systems of Taoism, astrology, and geomancy blended with native kami beliefs and Buddhist elements. But Japan did not merely adopt it. It transformed it into something entirely its own. By the Heian period 794-1185, Onmiji had become powerful fixtures of the imperial court. They advised emperors, determined auspicious dates, and conducted purification rituals to ward off misfortune. They were government officials and occult practitioners, and the most famous of them all was Abe no Saimai. Saimai lived in the 10th century, though details of his life are obscured by legend. According to some stories, his mother was a kitsune fox spirit. Others say he could control shikigami, invisible spirits who served him in silence. He was known to disappear for days, to speak to the wind, to predict deaths with unsettling accuracy. And yet, he was not feared. He was respected, because he kept the balance. In times of plague, he performed purification rites. During eclipses, he explained the sky. When nobles believed they were cursed, he uncovered the source of rival, a ghost, or their own guilt. His home in Kyoto became a school, a shrine, and a labyrinth of symbols and secrecy. Even today, the Saimai Shrine stands, bearing his 5-pointed star, a symbol of harmony and hidden forces. To be an Onmiji was to hold a kind of invisible authority. They chose the dates of weddings and funerals. They judged which lands were spiritually clean for building. They read the stars to determine when war would bring ruin or triumph. They wrote talismans with specific brush strokes, each mark channeling a cosmic energy. They used compass-like instruments to detect spiritual imbalance. They drew forbidden shapes in the dirt to trap malevolent entities. And though they rarely fought, they could banish spirits, or summon them, depending on who paid. But they were not omnipotent. They were often viewed with suspicion, envied, questioned, and eventually regulated. By the Edo period 1603-1868, Tokugawa rule emphasized rational governance. Mysticism became suspect. The spiritual bureaucracy was restructured. Onmiji lost their court roles. Their magic became folklore, their writings hidden, their rituals absorbed into shrine practices or lost entirely. Some say the last true Onmiji vanished with the Meiji Restoration in the late 1800s, but others claim the line continues in secret. In old Kyoto neighborhoods, some homes still bear pentagrams above their doors. Some families still avoid certain directions when burying the dead. Some children are still named based on star charts, not superstition, but tradition. The power of the Onmiji wasn't in their spells. It was in their silence, their ability to make sense of chaos, to turn invisible patterns into comfort, to remind people that fate could be negotiated, not just suffered. And now, we leave behind that hidden world of paper talismans and moonlit rituals, and step into another cloistered world, one no less disciplined, but far more visible. Let us walk quietly behind the curtain of the geisha and discover what grace, silence, and control truly cost. From behind paper screens and beneath painted faces, an entire world unfolded, one of silence, service, and self-erasure. To outsiders, it was elegance. To the women inside, it was a life lived under scrutiny, measured in footsteps, gestures, and the number of teeth shown when smiling. You may know the word geisha, but what does it truly mean to live as one? Not on stage, not in fiction, but in the quiet, aching hours of daily routine. Tonight, we follow her, not the icon, but the woman beneath. A girl might enter the geisha world as young as 6 or 7, usually sold or entrusted by poor families to an ukiyo geisha house. Her training would begin immediately. For years, she would not be a geisha. She would be shikomi, a servant, rising before dawn, cleaning floors, preparing tea, assisting older geisha, and sitting still for hours watching others rehearse. Every mistake was corrected, sometimes sharply. Her only escape? Memorizing everything. Then came the role of Minarai, an apprentice, allowed to attend events but not speak, only observe. When her body was trained to move like water and her face could remain neutral through insult or inattention, then she could become Mako, and finally geisha. Imagine waking at 4 a.m., not to birdsong, but to the tug of hot cloth being wrapped around your ribs, tighter than you can breathe. You eat nothing heavy. You bow often. You practice shamisen until your fingers blister, then dance until your knees tremble. Every step must be measured, every syllable rehearsed. A geisha doesn't laugh. She chuckles. She doesn't drink freely. She pours for others. She doesn't ask questions. She listens. At night, she performs tea ceremonies, conversation, poetry, music. Never explicit, always suggestive. Her value lies in presence, not touch. When the guests leave and the sake is poured out and her feet bleed from the geisha sandals, she removes the wig, wipes off the white paint, and becomes invisible again. Many assume geisha were free women, independent, powerful. The truth is more complicated. A geisha was debt-bound to her okiya for training, costumes, lodging, and makeup. It might take a decade to earn enough to live separately. Some never did. She couldn't marry without retiring. She couldn't choose her clients. She couldn't cry in public. And though she was not a prostitute, she was constantly mistaken for one, by foreign eyes, and sometimes even by her own patrons. Her survival depended on charm, tact, and discretion. Yet within this rigid world, many found a strange agency. They read literature. They debated philosophy. They mentored others. They endured. The golden age of geisha came and went. War broke tradition. Modernity changed entertainment. Today, only a few districts remain Gion, Pontoko, where geisha still walk softly at dusk. They are fewer now. They do not bow for tourists. They do not speak unless invited. But when they do, their voice carries centuries, discipline, loss, precision, grace. And so ends our night in Kyoto. From the stink of the gutters to the stars above court palaces, from blades and betrayal to incense and ritual, this city holds multitudes. And you, sleeper, now know just a few. Let the silence of its alleyways carry you to rest.